Today's lesson is Lesson 17, Dino Proteins. Throughout this unit, we have focused a lot on the actual development of the field of paleontologists and the people that were some of the very first to identify and prove the existence of dinosaurs. Modern scientists has grown in leaps and bounds with new labs, tools, and equipment. Scientists can even go back to the early discoveries and explore them all over again in a new way. New information, ideas, clues, and theories come to the surface all the time as the story of the past continues to unfold. One such person who has made some pretty incredible discoveries is Mary Higby Schweitzer, an American paleontologist in the 21st century. As we explore her story, we'll take a closer look at some of the debates and controversies surrounding molecular paleontology and how Schweitzer's work lands smack dab in the hot seat. Meet Mary Higby Schweitzer. Mary Higby Schweitzer was born in Helena, Montana. Her brother taught her to read at the young age and sent her books to practice reading. When she was about 5 years old, he sent her some books about dinosaurs, including one of her favorites, The Enormous Egg by Oliver Butterworth, and she was hooked, solemnly proclaiming that she was going to be a paleontologist when she grew up. Throughout her childhood, her fascination with dinosaurs remained. Schweitzer attended Utah State University and graduated with a bachelor degree in educational audiology and later another degree in science. From here, she taught biology at a local high school, got married, and started a family. It was 12 years later that Schweitzer finally stepped into the career she had declared she would be when she was 5. Sitting in a class by none other than the legendary Jack Horner, her passion was reignited, and she decided to volunteer in Horner's lab and work on her doctorate in paleontology. In 2000, Bob Harmon, who worked for the same Jack Horner, was exploring a canyon in Montana when he saw a bone sticking out of a wall. It turned out to be one of the best preserved T-Rex bones ever discovered, but it took 3 years to carefully extract to get it out. When it was finally free from the rock wall, it was too heavy to lift out with a helicopter and had to be broken in half in order to carry it to the museum where it could be studied. Schweitzer had already been working on molecular paleontology studies that showed the existence of fossilized red blood cells, protein, and collagen. When she investigated the bone, she noticed that the inside seemed spongy and that it had a distinct decaying odor, something she wasn't expecting from a fossil that was millions of years old. She worked to create thin sections of bone to look at it under a microscope, but had trouble getting them to stay in place. She asked for help from a colleague who borrowed them to put on a display on her table at an exhibition. A veterinarian saw the bone and remarked that it could not be a dinosaur bone as there were red blood cells in it, and red blood cells don't preserve well. This man saw that no one else had been looking for, and it greatly benefited the field of molecular paleontology. Wait, can Jurassic Park really happen? Can you think of a movie scene where something makes a statement and the entire room erupts in an uproar? This is the great picture of what happened when people learned of Schweitzer's discoveries. Like droplets of water added to hot oil, accusation and opinions flew. At first, many evolutionists said it was impossible and that she must have had contaminated the sample. Others argue that this still lined up with evolution, but meant that a perfect series of events had led to certain fossils having soft tissue remains. Young Earth creationists said this proved that the fossils could have been millions of years old after all. Could not have been millions of years. But it didn't stop there. Schweitzer went on to make further discoveries and conduct different tests. She dissolved portions of the bone in acid and discovered remains of soft tissue, mainly collagen. a protein that helps provide structure and elasticity. Through studying these proteins in this T. rex femur, she was able to learn that the bone was from the skeleton of a pregnant female. A few years later, Schweitzer studied the femur of a Brachiosaurus. This second discovery was more carefully preserved and was even richer source of evidence. Schweitzer was able to isolate bone cells, possibly bone blood vessels, and proteins such as hemoglobin, elastin, and collagen. Still, to this day, her finds have not been replicated by anyone else, which has caused a lot of speculation and doubt despite her careful scientific methods and being backed by respected leaders in the field such as Horner. While DNA has yet to be found, these proteins are remarkable and bring up a problem. Either soft tissue can last much longer than scientists previously showed, or these bones are not as old as we think. Can we use these soft tissue remains to make another dinosaur? Unfortunately, the answer is no, but scientists still dream of recreating dinos. Jack Horner has a theory called reverse evolution in his book, How to Build a Dinosaur. He believes that by taking the dinosaur's closest relatives, birds such as chickens, scientists can work backward to bring back animals that have been extinct. What do you think? I don't know how to pronounce this real good, Brac Iosaurus. After her discoveries on the T. rex bone, Schweitzer was able to study the thigh bone of a hadrosaurus called Brachiosaurus for a discovery in the bone beds of Alberta, Canada in 1936, and named by Charlie Sternberg. There have been quite a few specimens uncovered throughout the years. In fact, in the year 2000, a mummified species, or a mummified specimen named Leonard, was found that still had skin. From this to be possible, it would have to have been rapidly preserved, such as buried in water and mud, in order to stop its skin from decaying, because of the nearly complete skeletons. The information from Schweitzer's study of soft tissues, as well as the mummified fossil that was found, scientists have been able to put together quite a bit of information about the unique herbivore. Did you know that similar to the movie of Jurassic Park, a mosquito was found in a chunk of shale in Montana in 1980? This mosquito was found to have blood in its abdomen. No, it was not dinosaur blood. However, scientists remain hopeful that as molecular paleontologists continue to grow, more clues and data will help unravel the mystery of these creatures that roamed the earth long ago. The Brac Iosaurus is short-crested lizard from Alberta, Canada, and he's a herbivore. He's 30 feet and under 7 tons. These duck-billed dinosaurs had a flat paddle-shaped crest on the top of their heads. Like their relatives, they had a beak, which were useful in tearing strong leaves and even stems from trees and bushes. They had ridges or a frill along their spine and a soft, thick tail. Their legs were relatively tall, which gave them enough height to reach taller branches on trees. The mummified dinosaur that was found was studied through X-ray imaging and found to have had its lunch. Plant remains still in its stomachs. This is the Brachiosaurus. God and science. Mary Higby Schweitzer was raised as a Catholic but became an evangelical Christian as a teenager. As a college student, she self-identified as a young Earth creationist. However, she eventually changed her views as she learned more about evolution and studied dinosaurs. Today, she continues to believe in God and yet seems undeterred by the questions that science brings. She says, "If God is who he says he is, he doesn't need us to twist and contort scientific data. The thing that's most important to God is our faith. Therefore, he's not going to allow himself to be proven by scientific methodologies." While evolution remains the prevailing theory, it is important to note that young Earth paleontologists do exist. Dr. Marcus Ross and Dr. Kurt Wise are a few of the men who believe in the literal 6 days of creation and seek to prove it in their work. Many scientists who pursue a degree in science are one day faced with a bit of a crisis. Faith. Is the Bible true? While some have chosen to believe that both could be right and God could work through science, many have chosen a distinct answer one way or the other. One such man was Kurt Wise. In high school, he decided to take scissors and cut out all the verses in the Bible that could not be true if evolution were true. At the end of his surgery, he was left with only a partial Bible and a whole lot of clippings. It was at this moment in his life that he made his decision to reject evolution. In our first lesson, we learned about quite a few different opinions about the age of the earth, and as such, where dinosaurs fit into our past. The truth is, there are still unanswered questions that remain. Yet perhaps instead of science needing to prove God, God is bigger than science could possibly comprehend. What an adventure it is to be able to see him clearly in his creation and ask impossible questions of our impossible God who transcends human understanding. Apologetics Corner. We have learned a lot about the Bible and just a few of the pieces of evidence that point to its accuracy. At some point in your life, you too will be faced with the question, do you believe it? Have you tested it? Have you studied it? Have you prayed and asked God to open your eyes to the truth? The more time you spend in a relationship with Jesus, the more you'll hear his voice and see his hand in your life, the harder it will be to deny him. The Bible says that for his invisible attributes, namely his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly perceived ever since the creation of the world in the things that have been made. So they are without excuse. Romans 1:20. Every person who believes in God might not agree on the exact year that God spoke the word into existence, but they do agree on one thing. His creation, from dinosaur fossils to nature around us, leads us to see his eternal power and divine nature. Like a loudspeaker on repeat for all who will choose to listen, this couldn't just have happened. We have spent most of the unit looking for evidences of God's word, and we'll close by looking at how the Bible ties into what we are learning about. Choose one or all of the points below to research and discuss and learn about as a family this week. Read Job 40:15-24. The behemoth was said to have a tail like a cedar tree. Some claim it is a metaphor, or that it refers to a hippo or elephant. However, neither of these creatures have tail like a cedar tree. In a passage that specifically uses real animals to illustrate the awesome power of God, most understand this picture to be a literal description of a dinosaur, likely a sauropod. Read Psalms 74:14 and Job 41:1 and 12-15. Read about the Leviathan, a sea-dwelling creature. This could have been something akin to the plesiosaur we learned about, or some other sea creature that is fossilized at the bottom of the ocean floor. Number 3, read 1 Chronicles 1:19. We learned a little bit about how similar types of dinosaurs have been found all around the world. Scientists have wondered how dinosaurs could have traveled from one place to the next. They may have used land bridges, or perhaps the world was at one time one land mass. Read the following verse and discuss what that might mean. If you want, consider it in light of the story of the Tower of Babel. Number 4, read Genesis 6-8. The flood could have been explained many of the layers of rock that we have today, especially because we know that the waters burst forth violently, both from sky and from the ground. Read the story of the flood again and ponder it in light of what you have learned about dinosaurs. If you want, do additional research about how the flood could have caused fossilization and the layers of sediment that some scientists believe would have taken millions of years to form. This concludes our lesson 17 for today.